This channel is supported by TrueFire. TrueFire is an online library of lessons from some of my favourite players. There's thousands of lessons on there. You can use the promo code JNC40 to get 40% off of any of their courses.
I've done a lot of videos about a lot of things. I'm not sure if I've ever done a video talking about why I basically stopped using a Kemper and switched over to using a Helix. So I wanted to just talk about that today and just kind of go through that little bit of a story in case it's interesting to anyone at all. I'm not supposing that it might be, but I was using both in the introduction there. You could leave a comment if you want to guess which was device A and which was device B, and leave that comment now. And then I'll tell you now rather than go through all the hassle of it. Device A was the Kemper and device B was Helix or Helix Native. So in about 2014, I got a used Kemper, and before that I had been using a Mesa Boogie Nomad 45 with a Pod HD 500X in the loop. For direct recording and stuff like that, I've used a Pod XT Live and a Pod HD 500X as well. I think this started to become a time where I wasn't recording as much anyway. I started to record electronic music with the band that I was in, and would have been using the Nomad 45 for that. And I was gigging that as well. And then I decided that I could afford a Kemper used, and it was quite useful because you could set up new performances basically with the same sort of sounds, but just tweak around the BPM and stuff. And I first had it with the Behringer foot pedal, which is what I got with it. Later, I would go on to get the Kemper remote, which I still think is actually probably one of the best kind of all of the modeling kind of things. Their layout, I think, works really well, having 5 performance slots, which you can switch between pretty seamlessly, and you could even press each one of those to morph to another tone. So you could have basically 10 sounds under your feet at once. So I think about 2017, 2018, so I'd had the Kemper for a while, I started to kind of get into this idea of kind of reamping stuff a bit. So I record with the direct out at the same time and sort of blend 2 profiles together. So it might be that I'd use my Nomad profile and I might blend it with the Top Jimmy Blues Breaker Medium 6 profile, which is kind of a very different sound, lots of brightness, lots of top end. And I'd sort of blend between the 2 to get what I felt was like a tone that I couldn't quite achieve with just one profile on the Kemper. It would take extra time because, of course, you record, you have your direct thing, you reamp back out through it, and then it takes the time to record that take again. It had good results with that, but of course, time consuming. The other thing that I didn't love about the Kemper was that basically you're kind of stuck with trying free Kemper rigs or whatever comes with your Kemper. Otherwise, you end up buying quite a lot of stuff to get new tones. There's not so much of a build from the ground up type approach. Or you get into profiling. So I created a few profiles myself, and I was using actually the profile of a Fender Vibroverb at the start, and then the lead tone came from the Nomad 45. I was never a person that particularly wanted to buy loads of profiles because I feel like it's quite expensive, basically. So once I got into this idea of reamping, there was one occasion that Helix Native was on trial and you could do a free trial of it. I thought, well, I've kind of heard about this Helix thing, kind of seen some stuff about it. So I'll just, put together a reamp demo because I had the kind of direct stuff already because I would have been recording with the Kemper, presumably. And then I just reamped it back through, checked out a few of the tones, wasn't necessarily blown away, but uploaded it anyway. And I got contacted by Line 6 and they asked if I wanted to demo a wireless unit, the ones that were setting people's houses on fire for a while. And I said, okay, yes. At the time, I thought I might be trying to get into the line of work where you do lots of demos for companies, and the idea of free gear was super attractive at that time. I didn't have much money, and I thought that these things could help me out a bit. Anyway, so I did a demo of the wireless dongle with my dog, and then I sent the chap at Yamaha or Line 6 that I was talking to, I just said, this HX Stomp thing that has just come out looks interesting. And they sent one over, and I took it away that weekend and, dialed in some tones with it, and wasn't necessarily blown away, and continued using the Kemper really for quite a while, even though this was in the house, until I started to dive into it. And I think what I found now is that I much prefer building a tone from the ground up. And things that I like about sort of having a Helix or the fractal type of stuff is that you can kind of research other people's rigs, and you can think, right, well, they had this going into this, into another thing. And you've got amps in here that I don't have that many amps in real life. So the Kemper, I kind of, you profile your amps once or twice, and then you're at the whim of whoever else. And, you think, right, well, I'll buy a couple of packs from here or there. So the Kemper still I was using for gigs and stuff, but the HX Stomp, I gradually, over maybe the course of about a year, started to get more into it, started to dial in tones myself, and then found that actually, yeah, I definitely prefer that modelling approach, because I can go back to a tone that I dialed in way before, make slight tweaks. And the real benefit with the Helix stuff is that Helix Native, which is what I was using in the intro there, I can completely change my mind on whether I want delay on at all, or what type of amp, what type of tone I'm using. And this has happened in the past, and in the recent days, you know, I just did a video for Adam Levy, and basically I started off with a certain tone, and then as I got, you know, used to what was happening, I kind of thought something different might be more appropriate for the track. So recording direct with Helix Native is actually, I think, probably the way of the future. As well, you don't then have to worry about recording a DI separately alongside your normal tone, and all of this kind of reamping thing no longer has to matter. So I gradually got more into the Helix HX Stomp stuff. I did gig this by itself for a while, so you have like 3 snapshots. I have found that 3 snapshots for me has been just one less than I probably need. So the HX Stomp XL got more use once that came out. The tones over time have got better as they've kind of just increased more models. They've improved the cabs and brought new IRs on, as well as I've learnt more about what it is that I want to do to get good tones out of this thing. So I also feel like the profile is a bit of a kind of black box, right? Where someone else somewhere overseas has maybe sat in a studio, they knew what they were doing, hopefully, and they've stuck a mic in front of an amp and cab and stuff. They might have captured, what, 10, 15 profiles, and then hopefully some of those will work for you. You can make slight tweaks on them, and with liquid profiling you can probably get even close to what you want. But for me, I prefer the idea of building from the ground up, and then, you know, I can tweak my own presets. I can decide to trial bits of my presets with other parts of other presets, and I think, right, I'll just switch in an amp today. What if I switched in a Dumble style amp for a train wreck? Especially now that there are loads and loads of amp models in here, I think I'm kind of glad I went down this route. The Kemper, even with this liquid profiling thing, still, to me, I think it's got amazing sound and effects in it. Of course, the amp profiling stuff is really decent too. What didn't work for me so well live was kind of finding a blend between the clean and the dirty stuff, because, you know, I was trying to mix and match different profiles. Now what I might do if I was trying to do that would be to probably try and do that through the same cab, if you get what I mean, or something from the same pack, so it's like the same session. Because I think if you switch between 2 drastic, sort of like a clean from, I don't know, a blues breaker or something, and then switch to your Mezza Boogie that you've profiled yourself, there can be 2 drastic an EQ changes, what I tended to find, and it was a bit difficult to find that balance. With the Helix, because I'm building it all from the ground up, I've found that a little bit easier, and as time has gone on, now that I've got into it, there was definitely a learning curve. As I said, I had both for a while and used the Kemper Live much more than the HX Stomp. At some point that did cross over, but also in terms of effects, I think now with the dynamic reverbs and the pitch effects and that sort of stuff, I feel like the Helix sounds really top tier. The Kemper, I think, really underrated in the effects realm, but for me it remains a little bit of a closed off ecosystem because I don't have loads of amps to profile, but I am happy tweaking a model. So that's why for me I switched from Kemper to Helix. I did keep a Kemper for a while, even though I'd already transitioned, because Tone Junkie was paying me to make demos, so it was a way to earn a bit of money. But once I'd stopped doing that, the Kemper actually sat in the cupboard for quite a long time, not really getting much use. So that was the switch for me. I know loads of people have switched vice versa. I know loads of people are still big fans of the Kemper. Let folks know in the comments if you've got kind of presets that you use live that you think might be what people might be looking for. I think M Brit is probably one of the premier names that I've heard people using for gigs and stuff. But yeah, Helix has been the way for me. The Gumroad folder will have the presets that I was using in the intro there. I was using the Big Fender Clean and also then Eric Lead. I think for me, so the lead tone on the Kemper was based on my Nomad 45. I definitely prefer the lead tone that I'm getting out of my HX Stomp now to that. So I guess that's a good thing, right?